So welcome back for this fourth session of the afternoon. My name is Christophe Milin. I'm project advisor at in the Life Clean Energy Transition and Climate Unit at CINEA. As you know, CINEA manages a number of programs related to the Green Deal, and in particular, the legacy of the Horizon 2020 Energy Efficiency Program, of which we see a number of examples these days, and also manages the LIFE program. The new LIFE program will feature a number of sub-programs, four sub-programs. One of them called the Clean Energy Transition, under which we will see continuation of the market uptake activities that were previously funded under Horizon 2020. So a lot of a continuation of what we've been doing in the past and will follow now under LIFE. If you want more information on the LIFE program and how the future will look like, I will invite you to attend the info session on the 16th, so tomorrow afternoon, and also to visit the LIFE stand in the virtual fair that will be organized also tomorrow afternoon. So now we have two speakers for this session. We have with us Françoise Refaber. Françoise comes from the banking sector, where she worked for over 24 years before joining the consultancy, and she's now co-heading Énergie Demain, which is a consulting firm based in Paris and specialized in energy and climate policies. She has a very strong focus on facilitating energy efficiency renovations for households, and particularly regarding the access to financing. She will be doing the presentation today with Antoine Hervé, who is consultant for Pouget Consultant, which is a consultancy specialized in energy efficiencies and building renovation. Antoine is contributing to the ORFEE project, particularly on quality control aspects for energy renovation. So they will be doing the presentation jointly for the ORFEE project, which is ORFEE stands for Office for Renovation and Financing for Energy Efficiency, and it's basically a resource center to strengthen and support third-party financing companies in France that will be presented by Françoise, and also issue quality guarantees for homeowners. So the floor is yours, Françoise, to start the presentation of ORFEE. Just before we start, as for the rest of session, Françoise and Antoine will have 30 minutes to present, and then we'll take 15 minutes for question and answers. So during the presentation, feel free to ask questions through the chat, or just wait for the end of the presentation and you can ask questions through the chat. The floor is yours, Françoise.
Okay, so thank you very much, Christophe. Yes, indeed, we are going to talk to you about the ORFEE project, so originating retrofits and financings for energy efficiency. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. The ORFEE project aims to create a resource center for the third-party financing companies in France, as mentioned by Christophe. And I will therefore start to present these third-party financing companies and the context in France. I will then focus on what we are trying to achieve within ORFEE, so the objectives and works in progress, together with Antoine. So just to start right away, next slide, sorry. I will explain what are the third-party financing companies. So they are public. Yes, could you please go to next slide? Thank you. Thank you very much. So third-party financing companies are public or public-private entities whose activity is defined by law. So a first law issued in 2013 and then further specified in 2015. And basically, it's not the status of a third-party financing company is not about, a legal status, but more a definition of its activity. And so, Société de tiers financement, third-party financing companies, have to include a technical assistance for the energy renovation works. So it's advisory towards homeowners or housing associations, and on top of that, a financing offer. This financing offer can be through a bank, so it's an intermediation, or it can be direct, provided that the third-party financing company is controlled by local authorities. So it is a kind of exception to the banking regulation, which is really focused on financing the renovation itself, and both financing and advisory, of course, have to be directly linked to the renovation. So we can say that third-party financing companies are typical of what is commonly captured under the term of one-stop shop of integrated home renovation services, and they do not they go up to being responsible for the renovation, and do not limit themselves to advisory. So next slide, please. Now I would like to emphasize how is the French context for these third-party financing companies. What we can say is that the law also provide for the regions to be the leaders among the public bodies for the implementation of public policies, and namely implementation of this concept of advisory. So these regional initiatives, such as the third-party financing companies, are supported by the ministry, by state agencies. But at the same time, there is a pro and cons in this context, because the overall organization of the incentive schemes in France are more focused, more rather favorable to renovations that are carried out in stages. And so this is really hindering the organization of the offer of third-party financing companies, which are more focused on on full refurbishment and more complex settings for these projects. And what we can say, on the other hand, is that the possibility for the third-party financing companies to propose a direct loan is not very well accepted by the banking sector and more generally. So it means that the third-party financing companies have experienced for several years not a legal context, but more an institutional context, which is not so favorable and rather represents a barrier. But it is likely to evolve following the recent developments that we see. Further, for instance, to the Citizens Convention on Climate, which was a key event, of course, for this matter in France, which it occurred last year. And so it means that, for instance, right now, while we are discussing, there is a new law for called the Climate and Resilience Law, which is being currently discussed at the Senate. and which provides for the obligation to resort to technical assistance in order to benefit from public subsidies. And such public subsidies, it remains to be seen, but normally we should have a setting which is more in favor of global renovations. So next slide. It's important to explain the context where ORFEE, which is really focused on the third-party financing companies in France, are evolving, and what this H2020 project can bring to them. So the idea is that the resource center that is being designed for the third-party financing companies will focus on two key issues, which is to optimize the financing that is offered by the third-party financing companies for energy renovations. And second is to define a frame of reference for the quality of renovation works. With the first one, the idea is to have more favorable conditions to make the people decide that they will go through the process, and with the second, that they feel confident with a guarantee of the quality of the works at the end. Next slide, please. So right now, what we are focusing on, as you know, works which are really key to access to these goals, is first a shared database. So and the other work will be explained by Antoine afterwards. So this shared database is really a key tool in order to discuss with investors, and to make even if it's not to discuss with investors, to discuss with anyone about how the third-party financing works. So it's a database which will show for each file what is the result in terms of energy efficiency, and what is the result in terms of financing. And the idea is that this common database will allow to see if there are connections between the financing and the energy savings. Because what is key with the financing of the third-party financing companies is that it is based on energy savings, in the sense where the third-party financing companies, when they propose this financing, they take into consideration the energy savings, and include it in the assessment of the capacity of the people to repay the loan. So I will leave the floor to Antoine so that he explains now the second key element we are working on at present, which is the energy efficiency renovation quality and compliance control framework. So Antoine.
The floor is mine. Thank you, Françoise.
Yes, thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here with you and present alongside Françoise our works on the ORFEE project, particularly on the quality and compliance framework, which is where I step in. Just a bit of a step back before diving into the framework itself and its works. I just wanted to give you a little of a big picture of what our main goal was while designing this framework. The main aim, the main goal, our main goal, which we are keeping in mind, is to keep somehow a balance between two things. On one hand, the balance between quality and compliance, which aims are to ensure both performance and confidence, whether it is from customers and customers, insurance companies and banks, and with to keep this those two things in balance with cost on the other hand, which is as we all know a common concern, and of course a prerequisite for any sort of quality process you want to design. So this was just to keep a very quick word on what to keep in mind and what we are keeping in mind while designing this this control framework. Next slide, please. Thank you. Just another short forward before going forward on the presentation. The idea here on this framework is not to redefine construction standards and practices. Why do I say that, and why this forward is that it is a common concern when coming to control and to quality control and quality processes. It is a common concern whether they are from professionals or banks. Again, this concern is that these kind of controls might be a bit detailed, a bit too much detail, might represent a lot of cost, of competences to be performed. And what we tend to do here is, as I said, not to reinvent the existing controls which are due in any kind of project, but to propose and to design somehow a checklist, a global checklist of what we could call good practices, which are built to match the necessary controls and the existing regulations and etc., which are mandatory in order to yield a much better quality. So this is another thing to keep in mind. What the little illustration I wanted to give you here is when coming to the quality control of a car, you might think of it as follows: is there are already existing quality control while manufacturing a car, which are performed by the manufacturer. And here what we tend to do is not to reinvent those controls, but to gather them in a global checklist of lighter controls. Here you can think of it, in order to drive, you only need to know how to perform regular inspections of your car vitals and respect, of course, the road safety rules. What you don't need to know is the torque needed to secure your cylinder heads. That's the kind of idea you need to keep in mind, is that we don't push away those controls which are absolutely needed, but we build upon them to ensure a better quality overall. Next slide, please. Thank you. So now to go into the framework itself, just a quick overview of how it is built. It is, as said previously, it doesn't replace or any existing regulation or practice. In the contrary, it gathers them in a structured and prioritized checklist. And when I say gather, it means it not only that does it gathers different kinds of documents, of existing documents, which are regulations, official accepted practices, and etc., which are recognized both by professionals and insurance companies. And it gathers them on a second level, which is across the different trades that are involved in a renovation project. So this is how it is structured in a quick overview. Sorry. The last thing I wanted to say on this one is this framework is to be perceived as a prerequisite for any associated warranty. François has mentioned it. This, in addition to gain better quality and better performance on the projects, we also want to build this framework in order to associate it with a guarantee, which is in the works too. The very fact of gathering those recognized practices is of course a very critical prerequisite if we want this framework to be adapted to the guarantee and to the needs of the projects. Next slide, thank you. The general approach we followed to design this framework is as presented here. The main idea is that we followed a risk-oriented approach. This is a choice we made based on our experiences, meaning on ORFEE's consortium experiences, and based on the first exchanges we've had with insurance companies and with Marsh, who is one of the members of the ORFEE project, who's advising us on all insurance matters. So this risk-oriented approach went as follows. We first identified the most critical risks, meaning critical meaning as a risk of non-performance or a risk of non-quality. So those risks which we prioritized are the three risks you see here, which is energy performance, meaning the non-performance of the energy objective, health risks, which you can all understand, and then technical and patrimonial risks, in which we include risks such as structure risks. The idea here is really to try and mitigate as much as we can the risks we identified, which could have most impact on both energy performance and on the quality of projects. We then identify the different causes which could induce those risks. And then in the end, we designed the associated controls, meaning associated to those we designed the associated controls, meaning associated to the causes, one or several controls to mitigate one cause. And the way we design them is that for each cause, whether it is a cause specific to single housing families, single family housing or multi-family housing, the idea was really to try and mitigate as much as we could those causes with one or several controls across the whole life cycle of the project, from feasibility to maintenance. Next slide, please. Thank you. If we now go into a little bit more detail, as I said, we first identified the causes. We converged during this work. What I didn't say is that this work is a collaborative work. We led with the third-party financing companies who really participated to the co-design of this framework. So after a few workshops, we converged on 15 causes which were identified, and those causes are covering 3 different cause types or nature of cause, which are technical causes, coordination causes, and use causes. Use causes meaning you could do the best technical project and coordinate all professional the best way you can, but then if you don't ensure the use of the renovated house is as intended, well, then you're still gonna get some non-energy performance probably. So this is what we put under use causes. I just wanted to mention that there are other type of causes and risks we identified but did not prioritize at the moment in this version 1 of framework, which are, for example, financial causes and legal causes, which are not to be to be put away, but we converged on the fact that the real priority here was to first mitigate the technical coordination and use causes, and then on the second version of the framework later on, maybe we could focus on financial and legal causes a little bit more. Then once we identify the causes, we try and qualify them regarding their potential risk magnitude and their risk frequency, which could allow us to score them and prioritize them. And in the end, we design the controls on two different levels, depending on the risk level. So controls of level number 1, which are direct controls, which are performed for each project that the third-party financing companies are gonna supervise, and level 2 controls, which are meant to be more indirect or maybe sampled depending on the project and on the professional qualifications. There are going to be some sampling rules which could apply in order to make it a lighter, a little bit of a lighter process, quality process, in order to keep it cost effective. Next slide, please. Thank you. As a not a conclusion, but just a quick word on the other major brick of this ORFEE work package. As I said in the introduction, this framework aims at being associated with a guarantee which is in the works. This guarantee will derive from the framework itself, and particularly on the key risk indicators which we defined and their associated thresholds, meaning we're currently defining what we estimate or what we estimate to be a tolerable risk regarding the non-performance matter. For example, we're going to tolerate I'm giving it as an example, but a 10 to 20% deviation in consumption, and we're going to tolerate that much. But past 20%, we're going to identify this deviation as a risk which cannot be supported by the third-party financing companies themselves, and which is going to need a guarantee to it's not going to be I didn't mean that third-party companies, I meant the end customer. A deviation of more than 20% in consumption could be very annoying for the end customer. And the aim here is to propose a guarantee to this customer whenever this kind of deviation would occur, should it occur. So we are currently defining those different thresholds in order to define them in the specification of the guarantee. And then just as a conclusion on this topic, the other main issues that are addressed in these works regarding the guarantee are to enable the third-party financing companies to take out a bundled contract in order to cut costs, and to use this compliance framework and to use the guarantee as a lever to design an attractive performance guarantee, which has already been performed in the past in France, and this could be a new way of leveraging this.
So thank you, Antoine, for this thorough description of the works which are being performed at the moment within our team regarding the quality assurance. And I would just like to emphasize that we are also at the moment conducting a survey regarding the feedback of stakeholders. So we launched an inquiry to evaluate the service offer of the third-party financing companies from the standpoint of their customers. And so we are assessing the attractiveness of the service offer at the moment. So it's important for us to assess these results concerning all the facets of the offer, from the advisory part I mentioned and Antoine explained, up to yes, how the works are being implemented, and also the financial offer, which is included in the third-party financing companies offer. And so what is important also is to see what are the interactions with the other institutional and the private sector actors? Because of course this attractiveness is relative to other offers. And so it is being wrapped up and will be soon available on ORFEE website, including in English. And so it will be a basis to assess what ORFEE can bring in terms of further attractiveness to the third-party financing companies. And namely, we will have to test this idea of providing guarantee quality insurance to the end users, so as to see if it is really allowing third-party financing companies to improve the number of deep refurbishment they are able to propose. So this is why on next slide, I would conclude just to let you know that if you want to know more about the third-party financing companies, you go to the website of ORFEE, orfee-project.com, and you can also, of course, direct your questions directly to Antoine or to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, François. Thank you very much, Antoine. So thank you for the presentation. I'm sure there's lots of reaction and lots of questions after this presentation. So feel free to ask them through the chat or to raise your hand, so I can hopefully see who wants to ask a question and give you the floor. Maybe I could start. Maybe try to start for first question. You presented at the beginning of your presentation the number of third-party financing companies that are involved in the ORFEE initiative, and we see how the goals are common and shared. However, these different initiatives have different backgrounds, different political context, and maybe different modus operandi. So maybe could you elaborate a little on how the collaboration works within this ORFEE initiative, and also the incentives they have to cooperate, and how the relationship goes towards these shared goals. And my second question would be that. You explain with quite some details how you could ensure some performance guarantee. Maybe if you can elaborate a little on why ensuring this performance guarantee, what long-term benefits you see to it, and maybe the type of development you can see after this performance guarantee is in place.
Okay. So yes, Christophe, I can start to present more the third-party financing companies, the 7 which are existing. So of course, if you compare one to the other, you find lots of difference. But I would like, and we will go through these differences because they are quite interesting to comment, of course. But I would like to stress first that compared to other initiatives, they are really well. They are really sharing common practices and a sense of community compared to others. Why? Because as I mentioned it, it is they are integrated renovation services, and they are not so numerous in France. Most of other projects are more focusing on putting different actors together and playing the role of coordination. So these 7 projects are really deeply rooted in the idea that full service has to be performed. But yes, indeed, they do this in different with each of them different ways. First, they do not have the same kind of status. The first one, which is in Hauts-de-France region, so Hauts-de-France Passe Rénovation, is une régie. So it's a body. Well, it's a body included in the region itself, and like the stat craft in Germany, for instance, and they are providing the service, including financing, to both individual owners and to condominiums. The second one is now Île-de-France Énergie. Before that, they were called Énergie Positif. They are a public-private company set up by mainly Île-de-France region, and they focus only on large condominiums with collective heating. So, of course, this focus makes their offer very different from the other third-party financing companies. And they are also are focusing on the financing, but they were not able to provide direct financing until very recently because of the difficulties I just highlight during the presentation. The third one is Arte in Aquitaine. So it's the same kind of status of a public-private company. So it's based in Poitiers, and it's a very large region. And you know that in France, it's right now the elections, well, the regions elections. So we will see if the status of Arte could stay as it is, or could be switched possibly to a fully owned company, a company fully owned by only local authorities. And so since the fourth third-party financing company is focused on Bordeaux, Arte is more aims at working on a very large region, rather in small cities and countryside. So it makes its whole setting very different. Then, so I mentioned Bordeaux. We have in Grand Est, so in the region of Strasbourg, but also Nancy and all, Octave, which is being at present presenting its activity in another session. And Octave is now focusing on implementing the financing offer with banks. And so they are working in this prospect, but we see that all this is at the stage of experimentation, and this can change also. And the last one is AREC in Occitania region. And so they are implemented as an agency of the region. And the very last one, which is not at present in an operating phase or just starting, is in the region of Centre Val de Loire, and it is the same status as Arte, so a public-private company. So yes, of course, if you compare each one, they adapt to their market, and they are not fully, they don't are not all similar. But I really think that they all rely on ORFEE project to standardize more their activity, because there are lots of interest in being more standardized and to be more consistent in their offer.
Okay. Thank you. And indeed, you can find at the website the references to the different experiments and dig much more into the details of each of them, because they do have their differences. But we see how you try to converge towards also a comparable quality of the services. If Do you think that after a few years of operation for the different third-party financing operator, this type of services is already recognized to some extent by the market, or is it still very confidential with only the one that are involved in these discussions, knowing what this is about? And also for the audience that are not French, that happens. Maybe do you see? I mean, how do you plan to communicate also outside of France, and what is there for the rest of the audience? I mean, someone from another member state that would like to understand better what you're doing, and maybe get inspiration from ORFEE to apply in its member state. What is there to find in the ORFEE project?
Okay, so it's your question is an opportunity for me to mention that within our team we have energy cities, and they are very involved in spreading this experience to their members. I really think that, you know, the legal and local context is key and can make things happen or not happen. So in every country, of course, you don't have the same kind of setting, but never mind. Explaining what is occurring in France can be of value in other countries, and the reverse is of course very true. I think that the answer to your question regarding is it confidential? Yes, no. Well, I would say both, because what we see is that the inspiration, for instance, of what is being set in the law, which is being discussed at the moment, is really taking a lot of things from the third-party financing companies. But what we see at the same time is that right now in France, the idea is more to set up things at the national level. So it's difficult to recognize that what is being done at the regional level is the source of inspiration for something which is national. But never mind. I mean, what is important is that the global setting is more in favor of deep refurbishments, and I really think that in order to do that, the experience of third-party financing is interesting. And I don't believe that it will be, you know, a very widespread model, because it is the setting for the financing is an exception to the banking regulation. So, but what we think is that thanks to the ORFEE project, we can discuss with the financing sector, and it's what we are doing when we are ready with all the explanations given by Antoine regarding the quality and things which are key to discuss with the financial sector. And we believe that maybe it could lead the third-party financing companies to maybe implement their financings with the help of a financing body, which could occur further to the discussions which are being put on the table by the latest report issued by the Caisse des dépôts et consignations.
I think what is particularly interesting also in your project is the fact you involve an insurance company, which is
Mhm.
not particularly
It's,
common in our project. So
mhm.
it's interesting. So maybe you can explain a little what was the interest for the insurance company to get involved in the project, and maybe because it's some kind of different partner from what we're used to normally in this type of project, maybe what they see, what is their interest, and also expectation with regard to the project.
Yeah. Um, well, yes, it was part of our findings about what was going wrong on the market. And okay, of course, you have to distinguish the condominiums and the individual housing market. But for instance, in this individual housing market, you have a very little share of the market where people get a direct insurance in case something goes wrong with the renovation. It is supposed to be compulsory by law, but actually a very little share of the market is very is not working properly at all. So it means that, for instance, when you are a homeowner, if in 8 years' time you have an issue, you have to go back to the installers and ask them for their insurance if you want to get it done by insurance companies. What we think is that if we explain that a direct cover is accessible through the third-party financing companies, which themselves are supported by local authorities, which are trusted parties, then we can explain and with a proof that the works which are being done will bring value to the people, and that they can be sure that if something goes wrong in 8 years, 10 years, 12 years time, they will get support to get the works redone if there is any issue. So this is a game changer, and this market, this offer is not existing yet on the market, and ORFEE project is a way to test if it can ease the people decision making process to go into a very large investment.
Thank you. It's your last opportunity to ask a question if you want to. If you don't, then I will ask the last question. So you have 2 seconds. It's too late already. Yeah. So maybe my last questions. I understand from your presentation that the what you intend to achieve doesn't require at the moment any regulatory or legislative improvement. No. Maybe also because you've been working in the past for a number of years, improving the legal and regulatory framework. For the ones that would like to replicate such initiative in their country, do you see some points that they should particularly consider? And from your own initiative, do you see also some legal and regulatory moves that would be helpful for your initiative, maybe in France, but also as we are at the EU conference, if you see any improvement at EU level that could be helpful for such initiatives?
Um, okay, so it's Well, regarding regulation, of course, the tougher the energy efficiency regulation is, the best, of course. But what is really important is that we consider that especially for single family houses, what is important is that people and market actors get support in order to understand what is going to change in the market. And so I really think that yes, the EPBD revision is a key opportunity to implement tools which are leading both the demand and the offer. So the EPC is a key thing. And for instance, we see that well, maybe not this year, but at least next year, in France, the EPC will be much improved and will be made compulsory. I mean, it will be something that the people can show, and it will be yes, a proof that the works are consistent with the regulation, and so this kind of thing is really very important to implement, because I mean, as you know, energy efficient renovation, people don't really understand energy efficiency. It's not what their concern is about. So we really have to connect energy efficiency to something which is tangible, or something which is a process that the people can understand when they are ready to make works, which is basically when they buy or when they want to sell a house, more in the sense of buying a house. So yes, I really think that it's this kind of setting in the market which is needed, so that we have energy efficiency features really taken into consideration by market actors.
Well, thanks a lot again, and thank you also, Antoine, for this presentation in details. I mean, we only scratched the surface of what is being done in the ORFEE project, and what is still to be done to actually achieve this recognition of energy efficiency and low energy efficiency refurbishment, and through this type of services. So thank you again very much. I think we're going to close for today. Tomorrow we'll continue the discussion on home renovation with some presentation also foreseen in the morning. So you have the links, I guess, to these sessions, and also we'll have a specific session with my colleague Adrien Bullier presenting this notion of integrity in home renovation services, and a discussion around this type of services and how this can be developed. So you're welcome to join and ask questions. We very much hope to have a discussion with you around this concept. And in the afternoon, we'll have a closing remark, and as I said, networking opportunities, and also more information on the Live Clean Energy Transition Program. So lots to do also tomorrow. So have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Christophe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.